morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday message for April 2nd of 2023. Today, we are going to be discussing the last days of Jesus'. Now, in the Christian religions, we say that today is Palm Sunday, and it's the day that we celebrate Jesus' coming to Jerusalem. Then, of course, every day this week, there is something that we celebrate about that last week of Jesus' life. However, some scholars believe that Palm Sunday, the day that Jesus was welcomed into Jerusalem, actually took place about 3 to 4 weeks before the Last Supper, and then the crucifixion, and of course, the resurrection of Jesus. It really doesn't matter whether Palm Sunday took place 5 days before the crucifixion or 25 days before the crucifixion. What's most important is that we take this time in during the coming week and truly look at what all this means for us. Over these last few weeks, we have heard and listened to myself and other speakers speak about different ways in which we could expand our state of consciousness. And that's what all of this is really about. Throughout his life, Jesus continued to choose to step into the true kingdom of his I am presence until every cell in his body knew and accepted a union with his creator, with source. In the final weeks of Jesus's life, he demonstrated to the world how to become a realized ascended Christ. He demonstrated the truth of eternal life in the power of love, and so did many of his disciples. Each one of us is actually in an initiation process right now that's assisting all of us be a willing and loving participant in this cosmic, global, divine plan. The very purpose for which we have been born is actually happening to all of us right now, bringing us into our highest divinity to bring love onto this planet. During the time right before Jesus' crucifixion, those around him knew that there was a plan in action, a divine plan in action taking place. The author of the book, Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, wrote, and this was about Anna speaking. So Anna is kind of speaking through her as she's writing this book. We really wrestled so intensely with the collective fear and terror that found any resonance within our human consciousness, that there were moments in which we knew not if we could go through with the plan. And she wrote that there were times of doubt, self-denial, guilt, abandonment, and judgment toward God, the Creator, and themselves. After all, how could the realms of life have ever contrived such a dangerous plan as the one that they had agreed to be a part of? She knew that they would all be put to the test as the extremes of duality, light and dark, life and death, would equally be brought together so it could be returned to the source as one. And the author wrote, we found comfort only when we completely stilled our minds and surveyed the world from a much higher perspective. Insofar as we also aligned our wills with the divine will of the Father, Mother, God, so in us was the hope of the world. And according to Edgar Cayce, all the inner circle of the disciples knew that this public demonstration of what Jesus was about to show us, it was the resurrection of the body, required him to be put to death. All of the disciples knew that one of them was going to play the role of the betrayer. No one knew who that was going to be. And prior to the time before the Last Supper, Jesus met with Judas and asked him to play that part. That was going to be the hardest part of all for the disciples to play. Yet the irony is that was actually one of the most important parts to play. So Judas played the despised betrayer, that part of ourselves that we judge the most. Remember, everything that was happening to Jesus during that time before the crucifixion is actually all a part of us and what we go through. So this is a part of us. It's that part of us that it's most the judged. It's judges the most. It's judging. It's unforgiving. It's rebellious. And it's actually a cruel part that hides in the shadows of our own human psyche. So the question is, do you notice an aspect of your personality that is reluctant to forget, to forgive, to hold resentment, and constantly looks for ways to exaggerate its position, or conversely, makes itself insignificant? Do you sometimes feel betrayed when this part of yourself sabotages and sabotages the manifestations of what you truly desire? When this happens to you, do you blame and judge others or harshly condemn yourself? These are not comfortable questions to ask ourselves. However, to gain self-mastery and to understand the crucifixion initiation that we all pass through, this kind of inquiry is necessary. Then it becomes possible to take responsibility for your thoughts and emotions as your creation. And this is the truth behind the mystery school statement, know thyself. So when it's time for the transformational expansions of our personal crucifixion and resurrection, we will be challenged to look at all our attachments to beliefs, relationships, possessions. Everything that limits us will come up for review. We may feel betrayed, as when Judas betrayed Jesus, when our limited identity and world are falling apart. Or on the other hand, we may begin to realize that it's our soul that is liberating us at that very moment. So when the betrayal part of us or the Judas part appears at our door and knocks, the question is, will you open the door and welcome it? Jesus knew what was to happen to him that day and welcomed Judas as the friend that we have never understood. Jesus knew Judas had to betray him, but in actuality, it wasn't a betrayal. It was part of that divine plan. But Jesus knew he had to go through this time of being what looked like betrayal, so he could be arrested and brought to trial and then crucified. So we are being asked to uncover the parts of ourselves and remember who we are. So in the empowerment that occurs through the self-revelation, we ourselves become increasingly comfortable, relaxed, and vulnerable as our soul has these new changes going on. And we don't have to suffer through our own crucifixion when our intention is on the Creator that is transforming us. So at the Last Supper, Jesus went up to Judas and told him not to fear or to worry about what he was to do, that Jesus was ready to go through the crucifixion and then the resurrection. And he reassured Judas that what he was about to do was actually part of the divine plan, and it was crucial that it had to be done. So now everything was in place. Everything that was now supposed to happen began unfolding very rapidly. So each of us is also on this same journey. So just remember that your inner Christ is with you at all times. And as your energy intensifies and your cellular and soul memory is stirred awake, you are not alone. This could feel like a time of crucifixion, But you are not alone. It's the Christ in you that's transforming you. The Christ light within you will assist you while you also pass through your own time of looking at your inner self and allowing those things that no longer assist you to just pass away. So regardless of how your soul has held the Christ energies throughout all these many incarnations, know that the Christ is seated in you, whether you're conscious of this or not. The Christ energy within you, within all of us, is now opening more fully than ever before. Each person receives what he can according to his or her own soul's evolutionary divine time and design. We're being told, judge not, be not afraid. In the Anna books, the author writes that Jesus, in his statement to his disciples at the Last Supper, was, "And I say to you that when your eyes are made new in spirit, then raise them up on high. There surely you see me as I am, and know that I am in you as you are in me. And as I am one with my Father and he is one with me, so it is likewise that you are in my Father and he in you. I have taught you to be one with the Father, Mother of the cosmos, so that you can withstand the approaching storm. I have set an example for you that you love one another. If your heart is filled with my Father's light and my Mother's holy love, then so shall you see me also lifted into that same light and love." So then Judas goes off to let the guards know where Jesus is. Jesus tells the rest of the disciples that they are the chosen ones who will help to spread the word about the events that are going to be happening. And there will come a time when they will have a greater presence and power of source within. He tells them to allow their feelings of love to flow, and giving and receiving as one. So when Judas came with the soldiers and the priests, Jesus just stepped forward and asked them who they were looking for. And of course, when they said they were looking for him, Jesus merely went forward to go with them. And that's when Peter stepped forward and cut the soldier's ear off. So Jesus then turns to Peter and tells him that he doesn't fully understand the plan of what's going on, and that he has to go with them to completely fulfill the entire divine plan. Then he goes up to the soldier and reattaches the guard's ear. What the author writes in the Anna book is that as the disciples passed by Judas, they acknowledged him with sympathy because he had been the one to play this important role in this whole plan of action that was taking place. And they actually had sympathy for him. At the same time, relief for themselves that they didn't have to play that part. And as I was reading through the Casey materials, he had something very similar to say about that best part of that Holy Week, that Judas was not held in contempt because of what he did, but in sorrow and gratitude from the other disciples that he had to play that part. So this puts us in a different perspective about Judas and him being the so-called betrayer and the bad guy, when in actuality, he was not. He was playing his part. So as we look into ourselves, at those parts of ourselves that betray us through judgment, condemnation, fear, anger, jealousy, or whatever, whatever emotions that are going on inside, we can actually look at them and thank them for being there to show us where we are in our spiritual evolution and our state of consciousness. We can actually greet them with love, thank them for showing us where we actually are in our path, and then love them enough to release them and transmute them back into light. If we aren't willing to look at that side of us, then we're always going to be stuck. right where we are in our evolutionary path. Yet by being willing to look at those parts, thank them, and bless them, we can actually free them in ourselves to have more of an evolutionary growth in this life. So Jesus is taken and tried and found guilty and then set to be crucified. The author of the Anna books wrote that when they knew that Jesus was going to be crucified and was moving down the road carrying the cross, that there was tremendous fear and anger and sorrow that was going through Anna and Mary and the disciples and all of those involved in this plan. Yet, as she writes, they knew they had to come to that place of deep inner peace and tranquility, being even more connected to the highest level of source that they could become. That all of their fear and agony would keep them out of that place of full connection to source to be able to go through the next hours that were going to be crucial for Jesus and for the world. That their connection to source was absolutely critical at this time to assist Jesus in maintaining his high level of connection to oneness and be able to help him stay at that level that rose above the pain and the anguish of what was going on inside of him at that moment in time. So even the disciples had been assigned to go to the tomb and stand guard there and be inside and raise the energy inside the tomb to the highest level that they could in the waiting for Jesus's body. It was said that even they struggled to maintain that high level as they knew of the brutality that was actually happening to Jesus at that very moment. That they knew they had to hold the highest level possible to raise the energy of the tomb for Jesus's body to come into. What Edgar Cayce wrote and what was written in the Anna book were both very similar to what Jesus was supposed to go through during the time of having the nails put into his hands and feet and then being stabbed. And that was raising up of the body and being able to hold a high level of energy and consciousness that was not subject to the pain in our third dimensional world. And both accounts state that Jesus was able to rise above all of that and in actuality did not feel the pain of what was happening to him, that he was able to stay in a higher level state of consciousness above and beyond the physical body. Now, for most of us on this earth plane, we'll say that's not possible. That would be incredible pain and nobody could rise above it. However, I know a woman who went into surgery and had major surgery done without anesthetic. She had been in an Edgar Cayce group that I was in several years ago, and she had been meditating for ages and had been able to raise her body over and over again out of pain. Because she was allergic to a lot of the anesthetic that they used, she decided to go into an altered state and have the surgery done while she was in that altered state. So not only was she able to go through this major operation with her being cut open and everything else, but after they had stitched her up and all, within 7 to 10 days time, she was completely healed. They had told her that it would take approximately 6 weeks for her to heal. And when she went back in to have her stitches removed, the stitches were gone. They had already dissolved and her scar was almost gone. And that's just a person like you and me that had just been able to raise their state of consciousness to the point where they could overcome the pain of the physical body. This is one of the things that Jesus was trying to show us with what he did, that this is what we could do also. So here's Jesus put up on the cross, going through all of this, being stabbed. And at that moment in time, Jesus allowed his body to die. What Jesus had told the disciples is, when the whirlwind comes and the sun is darkened, look up into the heaven, and there you will find me. If your heart is filled with my Father's light and my mother's love, then so shall you see me also lifted into that same light and love. According to Casey, Jesus kept his silver strand attached to the physical body. He rose out of the physical body so it could, as we would humanly see it, die. And yet his physical body had not completely died. To the human eye, he was dead, but to the spiritual eye, he was not. And what Casey wrote was that Jesus completely stilled all of his vital signs, but placed his full attention on his I am presence within, which he had actually merged to in consciousness. And one of the things that Casey made clear, that it was not the Christ within us that had died at that point, but it was the personality's illusion of separation. It was the illusion that we are separate from God, that Jesus allowed to die. And it was through his experience of his crucifixion that his union with God as a living Christ was actually realized. That was what was truly behind the act of the crucifixion. To have that experience of becoming fully one with Source. And now for us, it's the very same thing if we can allow every iota of thought and belief that we are separate from Source to transform and transmute itself, that it will be transmuted into the Christ. So all of our thoughts that keep us separate from actually being pure love and light can actually be transmuted into love and light. Now, next week, when I speak on Easter Sunday, I'll share with you what Casey and the author of the Anna book say about the time between Jesus's crucifixion and his resurrection on Easter Sunday. And I'll share with you what they both have to say about what went on inside of Jesus so that he could show up Easter Sunday morning as the resurrected being that he was. But right now, I want to share with you two practices that I came across on one of the many YouTubes that I've been listening to that may assist you to be in the world, but not of it, as you pass through your own times of crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. The first one is this: find a quiet place in which you are seated comfortably and put your awareness in your breath as it's present at the moment, and be completely centered in the now moment. You and your breath are one continuous, uninterrupted flow of divine love. And just know that you are allowing and expressing love as powerfully as Jesus and Mary did in the past. With every breath in and out, be in the now, and then consciously step across the veil of disbelief of anything. Come to know that by feeling the energy of expanded love and light, that you are a realized, enlightened Christ. It's simply a matter of choosing to be more aware of where you are placing your attention. The second exercise may assist you to let go of attachments to separation agendas and assist you in expressing divine love. So begin with 5 minutes a day, choosing to step into this resurrecting Christ consciousness, being you already now. Not trying to ascend, but actually feeling the energy shifting as you align with your I am presence. Then ask from that empowered, kind, forgiving, and gracious place of resurrecting love where you can sustain 5 minutes of being fully present with love, flowing unhindered through you, benefiting life within and around you. And then add another 5 minutes until you can do 3 increments of 5 minutes each day. Then stretch each time from 5 minutes to 6, then to 7, up to 10, and so on until you are actually effortlessly living the truth of your being in every now moment, day and night. And that is actually what our goal is. Our goal is to live and be present as the Christ all day long, every moment of every day. So just know that I love you, I bless you, I appreciate you, and I behold the Christ in each and every one of you. Thank you so much for listening to this YouTube. God bless each and every one. Take care.